Hi, it's Lynn Watts here again with Stories to Learn By. And today I want to talk about the Wyatt the Wonder Dog book about listening. And certainly this is an important skill for kids to learn at all ages. And this is a great way to teach it. I would always do a lesson on listening and being a good listener. In the book, of course, Wyatt is having some trouble with listening, and there's a lot of funny situations where that happen to him based on that. And then he learned some different skills or strategies for listening. And in the back of this book, there are some techniques for mindfulness in terms of breathing and so on. So I kind of incorporated a lot of different things in the story. In the book of lesson plans, which is my newly updated Stories to Learn By, there is a entire lesson plan devoted just to listening. And just to give you some ideas of things that you can do when you do this lesson about listening. One of the things that I always really like doing and that kids enjoy a lot is taking a basket of things to make sounds with and having kids sit, listen, use something to make a sound, anything. You could take anything from a bell to even a stapler. That was often hard for people to figure that sound out, or a piece of paper and crumple it up, and then have kids guess what is making the sound. That's a nice listening activity and can lead you to talk about different times, ways to listen. Also, I like to have kids sit real quietly and close their eyes and just listen for any sounds. And invariably, they would talk about hearing, other kids in another room or out in the hall talking about sound of air conditioning or something like that. And then invariably in kindergarten, I would have one student tell me they heard a lion, which I don't really think happened. But anyway, kids have such wonderful imaginations. It always made it really fun. So there's some very simple things you can do about listening. You can also, with older students, do things that take a whole lot more skill. You can do some role playing and pair students up and have one student talk about something. It could be any kind of topic, have the other student listen and then reflect back, and which of course is a great way to practice listening, and not to mention being a good friend. So there's some different little worksheets that students could use to help them with that type of activity. And then there's some games you could play, which kids nowadays probably are totally unfamiliar with, like Simon Says, a great listening and following directions activity. So as always, there is an assessment sheet in here that you can use for pre-test, post-test. And there's also a word search and coloring sheets for the younger kids that you can use as well. So I think doing a listening lesson early on in the year is always a great idea, and one that's going to help kids throughout the school year. So that is our third book and third lesson in Stories to Learn By. Thanks for listening.